Hey everyone, what is going on? URounder here, and today we've got some 50 no limit for you. As promised, I have moved up, and we are going to talk through our decisions a little bit, trying to act as subconsciously as possible, to sort of trust my instincts, trust that I know what to do, and trust that I don't know what I don't know. So yeah, that's what we'll be working on. I am going to, I don't think I'm quite ready to totally deviate from having some like injections of data points or things that I can bring my attention to. I actually think that regardless of whether you're operating off of a conscious or subconscious level, I think it is important to essentially make sure that you are giving your subconscious all the information, right? Like if you don't make sure you identify pre-flop positions, things like that, standard lines, then I think you run the risk of making even bigger mistakes. But as long as you sort of give your subconscious all the information it needs, then you should be okay. Getting raised here would be really awful. That's about the only thought I have on that. On table 4. Yeah, I was a little worried that that might happen. Unfortunately, we've got 30% equity here. Our 9-out flush draw is about 18%. Then we got another 3 outs of 6s, so that adds 18, and 6 is about 20. What is 18 and 6? Like 24, something like that. Wow, we got a lot going on here. So 18 and 4, it's like 22. We're getting about 30% odds, so unfortunately we have to fold. But I mean, not unfortunately, it is what it is, right? It's a fold. So well, looked like that was a 6, but that's fine. Obviously that doesn't matter. The real point is that we just identify what the situation is, what we need to use to make the correct decision. What is going on here? Why is this not putting in the right bet size? It should be like 6. Maybe it's the recording software. I have not had any, I mean, I did just update Table Tamer, so that's the only thing I can think of. But I've been playing a lot and have not had very many issues at all with Table Tamer. So kind of strange that I would all of a sudden have one. I'm just going to time down for a second and make my C bet. And yeah, I'm going to play fairly subconsciously. And then once I have a moment where I have sort of a pause where I'm not exactly sure what to do. One thing to keep in mind here that I'm gonna go ahead and time down for like another 2 seconds, I'm gonna call, is that once a player bets, raises the flop, they're like very, very likely to barrel the turn. Now, this is not ideal because King Queen is just a huge part of our opponent's range. But I don't think we can fold yet, right? Like, I mean, obviously, like King Queen just jumps out, right? Because it's such a big part of what our opponent could have that beats us. But we can't focus on that part of his range. We need to focus on the entirety of his range. And so just real quick, attention goes pre-flop. We were. Where the hell did the button go? Okay, so we were in the big blind, so there's a button player. So he's got a wide range. He raised the flop. He's betting the turn. There's quite a few hands out there that can beat us. He's equity driven. He has a lot of 2-pair. I'm gonna raise. I don't expect him to fold any 2 pairs. We beat his 2 pairs. I'm gonna raise. He ends up with king queen. We still have outs. We hit 1. We win. Yay. Okay. We hit trips on the turn. Our opponent checks. He goes bet check to us, and we're gonna check back and then call any river bet on table 3. So unfortunate that that guy did have the king queen, but on the button his range is fairly wide. He can have a lot of other hands, so we're not going to focus on just one part of his range. Even if that is a large part of his range, it's not large enough, I don't think. Now this is a very large bet size on the river, which is not what I was expecting, to be honest. I'm going to reevaluate for a second because I wasn't expecting a full pot size bet here. And we have to really look for a second. Do we beat any value hands in his value betting range? We don't, right? There's no hands that we beat with our ace 7. There's a flush out there, and yeah, ace queen beats us, things like that. So I think we actually are going to just find a fold here. Okay. Man, I'm really timing out here. This is weird. I haven't recorded in a little while. I mean, it's not like terribly long, but just in a little while I haven't recorded. So I'm gonna try to speed up the action a little bit. And this is gonna be a stab. We raise the flop, don't really turn any equity, so we're gonna check and fold. On table 4. I backed up a little bit so I'm not hitting my desk as much. The last video I recorded had the mic, me moving the desk around, and then the mic, the arm on my mic like hitting the back of the monitor or something, and it made for some kind of annoying audio. So I'm trying to avoid doing that, but I am a little bit further back from the mic because of it, so hopefully the audio is still all right. We are getting min raised on table 2. This is going to be barreled very frequently, probably a slightly volatile profile, and even our outs aren't that great, so we're going to go ahead and just fold the flop. Raise here, and I've got this weird sit out thing that happens now when you like ever get sat out on a hand. It like you're eternally, it just keeps like telling you that you need to rejoin. It's an awesome ignition thing. And we got 3 bet, check to us on table 1, so we're gonna c bet. We don't turn any great outs, but it is a paired board, like a board pairing turn, so I'm gonna lower it down to half pot bet. Really don't have much equity. I'm actually gonna go like 1/3. We really, I mean, we can't expect to fold out too much here, so we just want to fold out some. What is going on here? Get off of my screen. Smaller bets, and now we do manage to get to the flush on the river. Obviously, I know we don't have a flush, but I think this is a fairly dangerous card for something like a 10. So I wouldn't expect him to call with a 10 here, and I think we can just pot it and get a lot of folds. This is something that I might be told is forced aggression, that pot size bet on the river, especially like for the sizing. But if I put his range on, you know, weak made hands, which is really the only range that he can have on the river that doesn't beat us anyway. If that's my goal, is to get him to fold those types of hands, then I think the pot size bet is required. I can't make a nice little 3rd size pot bet to get him off of ace high if I just can't really logically put a lot of ace high in his range. So let me find a new table over here for table 1. Unfortunately, I don't know if I've talked about this yet. There's a couple things I need to cover pretty early on. Number 1, I guess I'll talk about the HUD. As you guys can see, I am using a different HUD. It is the hand to note HUD. And for the most part, I like it a lot. There are a few things that I think could use improvement, and then there are a few things where I think I just need to become a better user of the product. So first of all, if you guys haven't tried out Hand to Note, as usual, there's a link in the description. So definitely click that link, get the free trial, check it out. It has some awesome features. I'll be doing a full review on it shortly, but I'm still just getting used to it and using it and finding lots of cool things you can do with it. As far as the HUD goes, there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with the HUD as well. What I'll point out is on table 3, let me try to get on this table here. On table 3, you can see that, what the heck is going on here? Why are we having so much trouble with our bet sizes? All right, on table 3, see this V1? That is a tag I created that stands for volatility 1. It means I'm giving that player a slight volatility profile, like the level 1, you know, not really confirmed, but essentially if you were to envision a sliding scale, my sliding scale goes down a little bit on that player for what I'm willing to call with and how I'm willing to play against them. And all the V1, it sounds a little more advanced than it is. V1 just means that they're limping, right? Like if a player has limped, they get the V1. If they have donk bet, they get the V2. And if they have, so far I think it's just if they like ship all in, I need to make it overbet as well. I have a different thing for overbetting, but I've still got some customization to do on this HUD. But pretty much if they ship all in with air, they get volatility 3. So that doesn't always last very long. But you know, having that read is pretty nice if you don't have time, or at least it draws your attention to the fact that you should maybe look at their hands. The other cool thing about the Hand to Note HUD is that if a player has showed down a hand, I can really quickly go see what it was they showed down and how they played it. And once you get pretty good at reading this nomenclature, you can kind of just see like, all right, it looks like this guy, you know, limped, or no, he called a raise with 9-6 offsuit, and then, you know, check down. So you can very quickly see if there's sort of a pattern of somebody either bluffing or having a lot of value in their actual showdown hands fairly quickly, which is obviously valuable, especially when you only have, you know, 15, 20, you know, usually less than 100 hands on somebody. To be able to see what they've showed, you know, gone to showdown with is valuable. So the HUD is a big thing. My biggest, I guess, frustration with it, yeah, sure, is that the stats are like kind of picky, right? I'm sure there's a way to do it, I think, right? I think there's probably a way to do it. I'm just not a highly skilled user with it, but you have to build stats to some extent for it. And like some of the default stats don't include, like, won't include an isolation raise, right? So if like there's a limp and then somebody isolates, like now that like misses a lot of filters because it won't call that just a raise, like a plain old raise. It's an ISO. And so it treats that very differently. And that could be good, especially if you have a lot of hands, like a lot of data. But for me, again, on here, like I just want as much information as possible, and missing out on, you know, just because somebody was ISOing doesn't, usually it's like people don't ISO that much different than what they just open raise. So I feel like that is, on Ignition, you know, you're kind of losing some vision if you just don't pick up on some of that stuff. The other one that I'm still struggling with is trying to get all the donk bets to show up. So I've got some tags that show if like somebody donk bets and it gets shown down and they had like a merged hand, you know, something worse than top pair. And then I've also got if they have show top pair or better, if they have air when they donk. But like it misses some of the donk bets, again, because of the ISO problem. And then if it's multi-way on the flop and the second guy to act bets, it doesn't count. Like I can't figure out how to get that to count as a donk bet. So that is a problem because, again, on Ignition, like you see a lot of multi-way flops. And whether it's multi-way or not, I want to know if a guy's donk betting. So that's that's a thing. I think double Broadway, I'm just gonna bet my trips. And we'll check down here. Table 2. Anyway, I'm gonna keep working on it. The company's fairly responsive with getting back to me with questions, and I haven't really gotten into a ton of detail about the specific issues I've had. The point is, you know, I just want to be able to make it so every time somebody donk bets, one, I know that they did it via the tag, and then two, if it got showed, you know, if it went to showdown, you know, I have some idea what they actually donk bet with. So here we have a flush and straight arriving on a river where there's a paired board and we have trips with no kicker. So this is going to be a pretty standard fold. When, you know, somebody donks out like this on a code red card, it's a pretty good indication that they're just like really scared of missing value. This is a standard c-bet. And now see on that one, on table 3, we actually got the V2, the volatility 2, which means that this player has donk bet at some point. So that adds a certain level of volatility, but it also doesn't tell us what they're actually donking with, which is very valuable too. Somebody who's donking, you know, top pair or better is much different than somebody who's donk betting air, donk betting, you know, bottom pair, things like that. So these are relevant for deciding how you're going to act on, you know, in future situations. The idea is to get as telling reads as possible, as quickly as possible, and make it easy to see so that I don't have to go digging every single time I'm in a spot. I can kind of just see, all right, this guy's V2. I sort of adjust a little bit, and then if the spot gets really close, then I can actually go and look at some hands that he showed down and decide further if that's needed. But on a basic, you know, idea, we just get this seems like a massive 3-bet from the big blind. And big blind's 3-betting range is like the tightest in the game because, you know, players can just call. So I'm actually considering folding the ace-queen offsuit. Yeah, it's his first 3-bet. It's huge. It's from the big blind. I'm just gonna fold because I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know if it's a perfectly, you know, it could be slightly exploitable to call, but it's close enough. I know as a standard it would be a call, but again, between the sizing, between the position it's coming from, and the position I was in, which is the cutoff, it just doesn't seem like something that I'm going to lose a ton of money by not defending. Here, I'm just going to time for like 5 seconds. Go ahead and make my re-raise. Obviously, once I put half my stack in, I'm never folding. ISO with 9-7. This guy's got a little bit of a volatility profile. This makes it a fairly easy call. And we'll chop it up. I don't like his donk bet. I don't think that's really necessary. Right? If we're going to bluff, you know, if we're going to ship as a bluff, then it seems advantageous that he should give us an opportunity to bluff on the flop. Now, see, like this donk bet's not showing up because it was a 3-bet pot. Like, I still think I would like the donk bet to show up. I'd like to know what happened. So I could build that stat. Like, I know how to do that. The thing I can't figure out is how to build a donk bet stat that works in a multi-way pot. That's where I'm having trouble. So if anybody knows how to do that, that would be awesome. If I could get some help on that. All right, so that covers most of hand to note. Overall, I really like it. I like that I can look at past hands. That's like probably the #1 thing. The badges are really nice too. I think it looks really good. Very clean looking. You can see like I put little labels on there, so if I am doing a video or whatever, nobody has any question about what stat is what. Pretty clean, pretty nice overall. Oh, there's a prop bet. So I'm not much of a gambler, but the group decided to do a prop bet for this month. Maybe I talked about this in one other video. Pretty much this month we are hitting like a volume goal, well, a time played goal, right? Because people on different sites really have only so much capability to hit certain volumes. So we have to play at least 90 hours, and then whoever has the highest win rate for the month will win the prop bet, which is, I don't know, 800 bucks or something for first. So definitely would be cool. I haven't put a ton of volume in yet this month. I've spent a lot of time studying, and for the first part of the month I had my son a lot, so I just haven't really gotten into playing all that much yet. Once he calls on the turn, the check call on the turn, yeah, I don't have any evidence that suggests that firing here is massively profitable, so it's just going to be a check down. Now, he is going to have some under pairs, right? He's going to have queens through, nines, not so much anymore, I don't think. But yeah, it's a pretty easy fold on the river. So working on, I guess I'm always trying to make my win rate as high as possible, but definitely trying to do that this month. And off the table, I've just been working on a lot of pattern recognition work, trying to recognize patterns, trying to create heuristics, just short little sentences and things like that I can use to direct my attention to the appropriate area in game to make the correct decision. The other thing, which I'm not sure if this video will come out prior to April or not, I guess it probably will. I do have quite a backlog of stuff that's uploaded ready to go, which is awesome. It's kind of a nice little stress reliever for me as far as the YouTube stuff, that it's kind of taken care of, and you guys can really count now on new content coming out every day, which is awesome. My channel has been lacking that for a long time. But in April, I am going to be starting a coaching Skype group, and I've pretty much hashed out all the details. I've already got one person signed up, so that's pretty exciting. I'm going to allow 5 people in the first wave, first group, and it's going to be $250 per student. So it's going to be pretty awesome value-wise for the first group, the beta group that does it. And then we'll, obviously, hopefully things go well, and we'll be able to expand it from there. But that's something I'm really excited about, obviously. See how these tables are. Manchester United's got a pretty low players per flop, so I'm going to... We have a fish to our direct right, though, so I'm not... If we have a fish to our direct right, or like 1 or 2 spots to the right, then I will stay on a table that is otherwise not very good. Multi-way flop, not really interested in continuing here. We could be drawing completely dead on the river. So the reason that I wanted to make sure I got a video up today is, 1, to get a 50 NL video, in the queue, and then 2, I have a coaching session with Nick tonight, and as I said in some previous videos, my goal is to do sessions, sort of before, after, and like midway through. So get an idea of the progression from lesson to lesson, and then sort of talk about some study stuff, upload some study information in between, so that you guys have an idea of what I'm doing off the tables. Because, most, if not all, of my actual improving comes from the work I'm doing off the tables. And over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be putting in a ton of work. Because I have the time and the ability. It's kind of hard to put in the work when I have my son, because he doesn't really like me sitting on the computer working on stuff, which is fine. So yeah, when I don't have him is when I really am able to like pump out some deep study, some deep work. And that is exciting because that's when you can really start to see some gains. One of the things that I've been focusing on is just staying really, trying to direct all my attention at, you know, just one thing at a time, because it's very easy to get sort of flustered with all the different, you know, rabbit holes you can go down in poker. And so right now it's sort of gone from building these study lists to building these heuristics or data points. You can kind of call them either. And then it's sort of culminating in this idea where I'm starting to build notes on specific lines with specific heuristics, and then building sort of study lists of hands that go along with those. And I think what it's going to end up becoming is a incredibly valuable study tool and coaching tool when I start doing my coaching. Because I'll be able to point to specific lines and specific heuristics, specific data points, specific information that I can actually pull out of hand to note on the mass database side, and apply that to a specific line to show why one action is correct or not correct. And so by being able to sort of put all of that information together, and then the key part, the most important part, I think, is actually then creating a playlist of hands with that information that you can actually click through and do active practice and study, and actually say out loud the heuristics that apply to the hand and practice that over and over out loud, simulating as if you were at the table playing and building the study, building the neural network and sort of deepening your subconscious understanding of how that line is supposed to look, how that line is supposed to play, how it feels, how the cards look, and all of sort of the look and feel of the game and how you should react to that. So I think that's something that is bringing sort of an extra level in that is not really something that I'd thought about a lot in the past, and is not something I'd ever done. You know, you kind of click through hands, say, I probably should have done this, you know, maybe mark it, and then move on. Against a raise on the flop, I'm expecting to see a lot of barrels. Our opponent is going to be very equity driven. I don't have a lot of room to call multiple barrels with ace-2 offsuit, so I'm going to fold on the flop. And that's multi-way, so we're gonna fold. So I kind of just gave you an idea of like the heuristics that I actually practice when I'm off the table. I see a situation where I get raised. It's sort of a kind of weird spot where like calling is probably correct in a vacuum, as we say. You know, the PO solver would say that it's a call. Poker Snowy would say that it's a call. However, I know that when players raise the flop, more barrels are coming at a very high rate. So if more barrels are coming at a high rate, it means that we can't really call expecting to get a ton of checks once the flop is raised. And if we can't expect a lot of checks, then we're not going to realize our equity frequently enough to make that a correct call. So we need either a higher equity draw or a stronger hand that we can bluff catch with, and ace-2 offsuit is neither, so it becomes a fold. That is literally what I've gone through that. I mean, you just heard me say it. I wasn't even really thinking about it. I was like kind of just looking at the tables, but I actually have practiced that off the tables. I've gone through a hand where that was the similar case, different hand, obviously, different flop, similar situation though, and actually talked through all of those things. And now I can sort of look at it. I immediately see the situation, get the feeling, make a note of what information is there, and then I can quickly process and pull up those heuristics, those sentences that you just heard me say, rattle them off, and then make a decision and move on, feeling very confident about this decision. Now, is there possibly more to it? Could that be wrong? Sure, it could, of course, and that's okay. Right now, in this moment, as far as I know, that was the perfect way to play the hand to the, you know, the best of my ability, and that's all I can really hope for at the table. Whoops, that king 6 offsuit was a sort of misclick thing. This is a spot I think is really close also. Our standard here is to bet, and I don't really have any evidence that supports a reason I shouldn't bet, or I should try to get to showdown with that weak hand and not protect it with a bet. Like I'm not sure, so I just sort of default to the stab on the turn being correct on table 2 with the 9-8 suited. Okay guys, we're at 30 minutes. Wow, I have not made a video in a while, so I think that was very, very high quality. I'm pretty happy with what I think is the content in there, and hopefully you guys are starting to see that I mean, if you're as happy with the content and the direction that the channel is going right now as I am, hopefully you're starting to see that there's some value here, and you're subscribing, you know, you're following it. And again, you know, if the slots aren't all full yet, there are still some slots available for the April study group. So if that's something you guys are interested in, shoot me an email, leave me a note, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.